Everyone. Teri Wellbrock here, host of the Healing Place podcast. So, for those who don't know, the Healing Place podcast has a fiscal sponsor and is a fiscally sponsored project of Fractured Atlas, and it helps fund the show. I have self-funded it through these almost 5 years now. In July, it will be 5 years. I just can't even wrap my head around it, but that's amazing and wonderful with coming in on 250 shows. So it just helps offset. I was able to buy a new microphone, new laptop for editing purposes, new camera. Plus, there's fees for the hosting site and so forth, the website and all of that. So then this just helps when I do these fundraising drives to offset it. So I just want to thank the sponsors from a recent little fund drive that I did. Fractured Atlas is giving away $1,000 to 20 different projects, and the more donations that are made, those count towards a chance to be chosen as one of those. I don't want to say win, but I guess they are going to randomly choose, so I guess it is kind of winning. 20 projects. So every donation that I get, whether it's $5 or $500, it counts. So yay. So first, let me thank in Ryder Buck's memory. Donation was made, and I'm so very grateful for that generous donation. Previous podcast guest, Nate Rifkin, also, and I'm going to put links for all of these individuals down below. So if you want to visit their sites and the work that they're doing, listen into those conversations because they're just amazing conversations. Several of these guests have books and programs that can help guide you along your healing journey. And Melanie Ryan, so the Golden Shadow Method. Again, I'm so very, very grateful to the generosity of folks. Some have donated privately and anonymously, so I will not name them. And again, just so thankful for everyone who supports the show, supports my mission, the dream, and all of you for tuning in. So thank you so much. And now for another wonderful episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and just so very thrilled to have with me today Lotte Valentin. And she is, oh my gosh, there's so much amazing stuff here I can't even begin to tell you. The intuitive physician. She's an N.M.D, author, medical intuitive, evidential psychic, medium, oh my gosh, ancestral healer and international keynote speaker. And she's also a speaker and teacher on the Shift Network, which many of you know. I've told you over the last few weeks that I am now doing affiliate partnership with Shift Network. So I'm so excited. I'll be putting her stuff out on all of social media too. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be a guest on your show.
Thank you. And I don't know if I put this out on the podcast because I think I just found it out this week. So I'll share it here with you right now. I found out through Listen Notes, which is a search engine for podcasts, that the Healing Place podcast is now in the 2.5% top globally out of 2.8 million podcasts. So I was like, oh my gosh, what? It was so exciting. So I'm kind of way up here on my energy level because I'm so thrilled about messages like yours just reaching an audience across the globe.
That's truly amazing, because there are a lot of podcasts out there, and to have that kind of a following across the world. So kudos for you.
Thank you.
For climbing that ladder. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I feel like so incredibly blessed to just have these wonderful people come into my life, and you have now been added to that. So yeah, let's dive in and talk a little bit about the work you're doing in the world.
Sure. So the work I'm doing in the world, let's see, where do I begin? So let me just backtrack a little bit so people understand how I ended up in this work. And I had 2 near-death experiences in the past, when you die or come close to death and you leave your body and you have some spiritual experience. And that was in 1992 and 94. And then I was really sick for a good 6 years. It really took 12 years to heal that. And then I decided I wanted to go back to work, and I started looking for things to study. And I landed on this internet page that said naturopathic medical school to become a naturopathic doctor. And I said, I can't go to medical school. I'm in my 40s now. What am I thinking? That's not a good idea, right? Because your kids are teenagers now, and even if I took all the prerequisites, there is no guarantee I would even be accepted into medical school. And during these 12 years after my near death experiences, I became more and more clairvoyant. So I started seeing things before they happen. I started hearing things. This person is sick. This person is going to die, and your children are in trouble. You're going to be in a car accident. And it was just this constant flow. And I had a very materialistic view of the world before I had my near death experiences. So I was a complete atheist. I didn't believe in anything. And then I had these experiences. And so it took a very long time for me to sort of start trusting in these messages. And I was literally guided to go to medical school. And so I went to medical school when I was 54. I did all my prereqs, the chemistry, biology, organic chemistry, and all the different classes, and then applied. And I applied to 2 schools, and I was accepted at both. And going to med school, and I was 54 now. Once I got there, I said, this is a mistake. What did I sign up for? What am I thinking? Anyway, so I went to medical school, and then I graduated in 2016. And it's after I graduated that I was then guided again to go study mediumship at Arthur Findlay College in England. And I met this woman, and she said, I'm a medium, and I have your mother with me, and she has a message for you. And I was literally laughing, even though I had been going through this now for 20 years or something. I was still doubting that you could actually bring in a spirit for somebody else. I said, it's one thing for me to get messages. It's one thing if I hear my mom in the spirit world or see my uncle, but this woman doesn't know anything about me. How is she supposed to know anything? Well, she started talking about, oh, you were a child and you went fishing with your grandmother. I was like, how does she know this? This is such an unusual childhood because I grew up in Sweden, in northern Scandinavia. And anyway, so after my mom told this woman 3 times that I had to go study mediumship at Arthur Findlay College in England, I said, okay, that's it. I'll do it. And I had literally just graduated. I graduated in June of 2016. I took my medical boards in August, and there's 2 boards. First, you take the clinical boards after 2 years. I mean, after the science boards, and then after you graduate, you take the clinical boards. I didn't even know if I had passed yet. I was hoping I had passed, but it takes about 2 months to even get the results. So I'm meeting this woman for dinner that I met at this seminar, and she just keeps telling me, you have to go, you have to go. This is what your mother is telling you. So 6 months later, I found myself at Arthur Findlay College in England. And sure enough, of course, you can bring in a spirit for somebody else if you just learned how to open that up. Because I was already connected. I was already receiving messages. And it was just a matter for me to learn how to channel that information so that I could call it in when I needed it to come in versus somebody's here. Somebody's giving me a message, all right? Which is different. And I think that's how most of us experience life. Because when I work with people, they'll say, I'm pretty sure it's my grandmother that keeps telling me these things because they sense it, because we are intuitive creatures, but we have to tune into it. And so then I learned how to channel that information and how to, bring that information in on demand so that I could bring in a spirit to give messages of healing and forgiveness to the clients. And so you asked how I ended up working as what I'm working as now. So of course now it's been about 5 years of this merging of mediumship and psychic abilities and training to channel that together with my medical degree and my everything else that comes along with studying medicine, learning the anatomy and all the counseling that comes along with that. So now it's become this integration. And when I work with people spiritually, so I divide my time. between working as a physician 2 or 3 days a week. And then I have another website. So my physician website is drlotte.com. And then my spiritual website is divinespiritualessence.com. And that's where people can book sessions for medical intuitive or wholehearted, which is either psychic. People come to a crossroad in their life. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And, I tune into, well, I'm feeling you're this kind of personality. And have you ever considered working in this field? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Right. So, but it's people, you need that confirmation sometimes because they're in that same position I was when the spirit world told me I had to go to med school. And I said, what, am I crazy? I can't do this. I'm in my 40s. Right. So we all come to these crossroads. So it's either that or bringing in the spirit from the spirit world. But then I also work with ancestral healing. And that is something that I trained in after I graduated again. It is a form of counseling. So it's family constellations. And that started happening. I started seeing the patterns of family trauma while I was working as a medium with people. And I had about 4 clients in a row that all showed me the ancestral trauma passed down. And I would see the grandmother and I would see the abuse that she suffered. And then I would see the children. And then I would see that, person remarrying the same kind of person as her father. And then, now it's the client in front of me. And the pattern just repeated through the generations. And so then that led me to study ancestral trauma. So now I work with that also on the spiritual side, because I often work with my spirit guides, the client spirit guides, or deceased loved ones in the spirit world, or not loved ones in the spirit world, people that have caused them trauma. But sometimes these spirits come in and they'll show me images of their childhood and I understand right away what happened. But then I'll see the childhood of that person and I'll say, your father, had alcoholic parents. Nobody cared for him. He's showing me there's no food in the refrigerator. He didn't have anybody to teach him how to be. And so, he did his best when he raised you, but there was all this trauma because he had trauma, right? And it gets passed down. So there is this integration of, me working as a naturopathic physician, which is somebody who is trained in pharmaceutical medications, just like any MD. And I live in Arizona, so I'm an N.M.D, naturopathic medical doctor here, and we have pretty much almost the exact same rights as a regular MD, but not all states are licensed in the United States. I think about half of them are licensed. So it's like the chiropractors were, about whatever, 20 years or something.
Right.
The licensing is not in place yet for all states. So I work, with people, treating them with botanical medicine, acupuncture, homeopathy, toxins and Lyme disease, you name it. But also I work with pharmaceutical medication because I'm also trained in that, because we just have a bigger tool bag. So we have more tools in a sense to treat the person. And then I work with them spiritually, healing the emotional and spiritual component, because that is always tied in to our physical, right? It's very difficult to heal somebody physically unless you incorporate a more holistic view. And we talk a lot about this in articles, but it's not that easy to do working as a physician, because we have to treat patients based on our licensing and what is considered the gold standard of this person presents with a specific diagnosis, and this is how you treat that. And so you kind of have to stay within those boundaries that have been set in place for medical licensing. So it's difficult to say, oh, I'm gonna talk to your father in the spirit world, right? So it has to be in a different business.
Right.
So that's
right.
that's why they're separated. So one is a spiritual business, and one is, you see me as a doctor, I will run lab tests and I will diagnose you and prescribe as needed. But if you want to work with me, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then you can go to Divine Spiritual Essence and you can book any kind of session that you want on that website. You just find a date and time, and then you can book it on your own. So it makes it easy.
Wow. That's wonderful. But I mean, how amazing is that, that you really are incorporating mind, body, spirit? I mean, yeah, you have to
Mhm.
split it in two, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what a beautiful gift, because I know on my healing journey over this last year, trying to find a holistic practitioner and somebody who, because I very much am in tune with needing all of that addressed to get to the root cause and not just throw a pill at it and mask the symptom. Yeah, and so it's hard to find that. So what a gift that is you give to folks.
Yeah, it is really hard. And I often see people on my medical intuitive. So I work two different ways. Well, I always work with the spirit world when I work with somebody intuitively, because sometimes people just show up on my screen and then they'll tell me, I have this problem, and I'll say, well, do you have this other problem? Because I keep hearing this diagnosis from the spirit world,
Yeah,
and then they say, well, I don't know. Nobody ever told me if I have that. And I said, do you have any of these symptoms? And then sure enough, yes, 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 yes. And so something for this is just how it works, and we are such divine creatures, and we are
yes,
interconnected with everything that is. And people come, they're guided to see me because I obviously have some information for them that they need, because that's how it works. You feel drawn to have a session or consultation with somebody. It's typically because there is something there for you, right?
right.
And there are many different type of medical conditions that sometimes you can't see it on an MRI or ultrasound or CT scan. People are told there is nothing wrong with them. It's just in your head and your
Yes,
lab work looks fine. And people are not well. They're suffering from something. I mean, why would you make up that you're feeling terrible for 10 years? No, why
right,
would you do that? Right?
right.
So there
Well,
is always
I
something
remember,
there.
yeah, I remember a year ago, March, I told my family, just sobbing, I feel like I've been poisoned. Like I just kept saying, I feel like I've been poisoned. There's something in me that's trying to attack me. I've been poisoned. And I felt like, crazy woman. Like I can't explain it. I can't tell you what's going on. I just feel like it. Doctor after doctor, emergency room visits, nobody could figure it out. Finally, thankfully, listened to the little taps on my shoulder, my spirit guides and angels directing me, and found my way to a nutritionist who said, um, have you, do you think you've been exposed to mold? And I was like, no. Well, here, long story short, we found out our home that we had just purchased here on Hilton Head Island had been condemned for mold growth, and no one told us before we bought it. So they had slapped on this pretty paint and all these new, everything was redone and it looked gorgeous, but
Mhm.
lurking behind the walls, and I had mycotoxin poisoning. And so just to be justified in that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm not so crazy, but yeah, why would I be making up? I feel like I've been poisoned. And doctors were like, yeah. I actually had a doctor say, well, I think what we're going to do is put you on some anti-anxiety medication. And I was like, it's not anxiety.
Classic. Right? It's classic. I mean, there's actually a term for it. It's called gaslighting.
Mhm.
So, you go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't take you seriously and he gives you, some other medication that's not your problem. But they do that. I see that all the time, and people are given all these different, sometimes they have digestive issues and they're given the proton pump inhibitors, right? But the truth is they might actually have too little acid, and that's what's causing their acid reflux. So sometimes if you're not digesting well, so it can be the opposite of what you are sometimes given. So the symptoms then become worse because now you have even less stomach acid. But it's the same with there's so many conditions like that that we the Western medicine is really in bed with the pharmaceutical industry. And there is, we're taught, of course we're taught to suppress the symptoms. It's not, you can't always heal a person, right? So then you try to suppress the symptoms, and this is what we're taught, if they have these symptoms, give them this. So it's not like the doctors are being bad doctors or mean doctors or whatever. It's they're just doing what they were trained to do.
Taught. Yeah.
So, but yeah, but it's interesting because then people also get,
Right.
anxiety medication. That's a classic that happens so often.
Yeah.
I see people get that.
Well, and thankfully, I'm educated enough to be like, no, hold up. Wait a second. But there's a lot of people who aren't. And I have to go back for just a second what you were talking about the whole intuitive thing. So this morning I was sitting here working, and all of a sudden this song popped into my head, and I said, oh my gosh, Grandpa Joe, I have not heard from you in forever. Like, I'm starting to finally understand that. And so I was able to sing the lyrics of this song that I probably haven't heard since I was 6 years old. And I could just sense his presence with me. I'm not quite sure why he was here, maybe just to say hi and sing me a song, but I so heard it, and it was beautiful and wonderful. So I loved what you said about, everybody can just learn to understand these messages, and when we have these connections come through from spirit world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's just a matter of learning to trust it. And so after I graduated, so one of the messages that came through when I was told to go to medical school was that I had to write 2 books, no wait, 3. And I was like, what do you mean write a book? What am I supposed to write about? This is back in 2004. Never thought of myself as an author. And the message I would get is just, when the time is right, we will tell you. And it's just the classic. So for years, and I would get to med school and I would say, okay, hello, spirit world, I'm at med school. What do I do now? And it would get the same, literally for 4 years, I got the same message. Just concentrate on finishing school, get your degree, focus on your degree, get through school. I was like, okay, after all these years, I must have lost my mind, because here I am in med school in my 50s.
Right.
And have I lost my mind? And then sure enough, as soon as I graduated, or towards the end, like the last 6 months, the spirit world came back in, starting, it's almost time to write your book. The title of your book is Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul. And so then as soon as I graduated, I started writing an outline, and it's called Med School After Menopause, to inspire other people that it's never too late to transform your life. And there is, I think, one chapter about what it's like to be in med school when you're in your 50s and everybody else is in their 30s. But it's actually not that bad, because you have so much more life experience to draw on, and you require less sleep because you're older. So that worked in my favor. And it's not any harder. The only thing that's different from, because I got my undergraduate degree in the early 1980s. And so back then, people, the teachers wrote on the blackboard. Now everything is PowerPoints. So the teachers fly through the lectures. It's about a PowerPoint. We had on average, the first 2 years in med school starts with 4-hour lecture from 8 to noon. And then you have classes in the afternoon and into the evening. So on average, I would say it was about 50 slides an hour. So it's 200 PowerPoint slides a day, about 1,000 PowerPoint slides a week. And then they'll say, okay, we're having a quiz, 10 questions. And you're thinking, on 1,000 PowerPoint slides? Yeah, that's what it's like. And you just you learn to absorb the information. You better remember it. You hear it once, and you're going to recall that at some point on that little quiz, because if you get less than 7 out of 10, you're flunk. So, and people flunk out of med school. So after that first quarter, when we came back, there was, almost half the class was missing. People had either said, this is not for me, this is too crazy, or they just couldn't keep up with the course load, because we did 32 credits in 11 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the pace. So I tell people, it's not that it's hard, it's the pace of teaching. So you have to absorb so much material so quickly, and you have to recall it. And so that's the hard part, training your mind to, just, I've heard it once, now I know it, but you're not going to be on it for 4 hours every morning, every day of the year. So anyway, so I wrote my book, Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul. And in the book, it tells my near-death experiences in detail. And my first near-death experience happened after my 3rd child was born. But this child was also born between a 7.4 and a 7.2 earthquake. So it starts there. And then I try to teach people, how do you know what to follow, that you have to kind of put your mind aside and just listen to that heart. What is it that my true essence, my true heart, what is it that that wants? Because your logical mind is going to tell you it's not a good idea. What are you thinking, right? Like my mind did, and said it's not a good idea to go to med school, and I had to learn to put that aside. But then I take you through the book, and I give a lot of different examples of how I became clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and how that can look for somebody. And then at the end of each chapter, there is like a message for each chapter that you can easily incorporate this message into your own daily lives, so that you can start paying attention to, just like you noticed your grandfather, you heard that song, right? And all these intuitive experiences, because we are all intuitive creatures. We all have the capacity of connecting with the spirit world, to follow our intuition. But especially in the Western world, we learn to suppress that. But we all have it, and it's just a matter of tuning into that, because once you do, that's when you will find your true happiness, your true love for what you're doing. And when my children were little, I would tell them, I don't care what you do when you grow up. I don't care if you get a college degree. I don't care what you major in. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or decide to be a bicycle repair person, and because you love biking and you love bicycles, because that passion, if you have a passion for that, people will bring their bikes to you, and they will get your advice, this bike versus that bike, and how to tune it and how to fix it. But it comes from that passion. And people who have a passion for something, those are the people we're drawn to. Have a passion for baking or whatever. And I would tell them, I don't care if you collect milk bottle caps,
Right.
because if you collect milk bottle caps, you're going to have the biggest collection in the world. And one day you will have a museum, and people will travel to see your milk bottle cap collection, because you have a passion for it. And it's all about finding that passion in your heart, and then trusting that and going for it, because we
Yes.
all, yeah, that's and that's who we are. That's our true essence. And that's so my book is all about helping people find their intuitive mediumistic skills, and finding their own passion, and then how transform their own life by taking them on a journey, basically, of my own life, with some pretty funny stories along the way.
That's so fabulous. I have 3 kids as well up here for those little
Mhm.
video. And I tell them the same thing. I've always said, follow your heart, follow your passion. And I'm so proud of the oldest. Well, I'm proud of both of my boys are finishing up college, but the oldest had directed away from where he wanted to go. He was always just so brilliant with computers and science and math. And last year, so he's 28 now, lives in Denver. And last year he had said to me, or even a couple months ago, I really want to go back to school. I really want to go back to school. I want to get an engineering degree in computer science. And I said, then do it. Only you can make it happen. Do it. And he is finishing up his first semester back at the University of Denver, Colorado, Denver. And I'm so proud of him. He's taken 6 classes plus a lab, and he's got this crazy load, but he is loving it. And I'm just so incredibly proud of him, because that message that just follow your heart and your passion. You'll keep, I think the universe, God, angels, whoever, they keep tapping you on the shoulder and nudging, right?
Yep.
And saying, nope,
Yeah.
this way.
You're right. It's like you're on the wrong track. Some of us have to have a near death experience to get on the right track. And I
Right.
always joke about that, because I was born and raised in Sweden, which is Northern Europe. And then going through junior high, it was really good in chemistry, biology, physics. And the counselor said, "Oh, you should major in the sciences in high school, because we actually major. And after high school, if you're going
Wow.
to be a doctor, you go straight to medical school, because you already did all the sciences, the chemistry, biology, physics, and all that in high school." And I looked at the people that were studying in the science line, and there were 95% of them were boys back then, because this is the 1970s. And I said that I'm never going to get a boyfriend. I'm never going to have any friends, And so I majored in business and languages. And then I fell in love with an American, and that's how I landed in the United States. And then we got married after dating across the Atlantic Ocean. And so I was only 21 when I got married, and he had a year left at Boston University, and we had just gotten married. And I took a job as the biomedical engineering secretary, department secretary for Boston University. And I would sit there and type research papers for these professors. I had no idea what I was typing. It was just like letter by letter because my English wasn't that good yet. And then after a year, we were supposed to go back to Sweden. I had already started at Stockholm's University studying economics, and which I didn't like. And then the professors at the engineering school said, "Oh, you have such a knack for computers. Why don't you study engineering?" And I said, "I can't do that." So then I studied again. I studied business. So I went to the business school at Boston University, studied business and management information systems. So kind of like computer science, but within the business school. And then I worked as a programmer and systems analyst for IBM in New York. So you can see where I came from.
Yeah.
Very logical, very, an atheist. I didn't believe in anything. When you die, it's black, you're gone. That's it. Very materialistic worldview. And then I had my near-death experiences. So it took, a long time. It took me a good 12 years to even, okay, this is something, because the spirit world can't tell me the truth every single time, right, of things happening. And then another, so now it's been about 25 years of integrating this and, showing me who I am and what I'm here to do. But it is funny because I was going down the wrong track in the beginning. And so I always joke that, the spirit world was saying, she's on the wrong track. We got to fix this. So,
Right.
so she didn't get it on her first near-death experience. So let's make sure she has another one. So 2 years later, had another one, just to make sure she gets the message. So that's what I joke about. And I feel like, sometimes it's like that. We have these experiences, these hardships, but it is these hardships that teaches us to grow and become
Yeah.
a different person. I always say it's like planting a seed in the ground and growing a baby in a womb, or, the transformation happens in that darkness. And we go through these dark periods in our life because life is a roller coaster, and we wish that we could always be at the top of that roller coaster. But then, we go down and we hit this valley because, life is full of obstacles, and it's just a journey. And we just have to remember that when we go through these darker periods, when we're down in that valley, it's only temporary. And life energy doesn't stay stagnant. Energy moves and shifts, and so does your life, and so does your experiences. So there's always, the things are going to change. So for listeners out there, if you're down in that valley right now, remember it's temporary. And a year from now, your life is going to look very different. And it's just, this is something that's as miserable as it can be when you're down in that valley. Things will eventually get better because they don't stay the same. Things aren't stagnant.
Yes.
So
Amen.
yeah,
Yeah.
keep
I
moving
know
through that.
I had sent you questions beforehand, and I said, well, we probably won't even get to half of them because we're having this wonderful conversation. But so I do want to touch upon a few of them, but only because I loved your answers so much, because you kindly sent me answers back beforehand. So really, your audience then is everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because that's who all of us experience.
Yeah.
This roller coaster ride and needing healing. And we, while some of us may not have horrible traumatic events in our lives, trauma still comes in. Grief, if we lose a loved one, it can be a traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is, no, it's not like this person had, more trauma and this person had less trauma. I always look at it as that's the ticket you got when you were out there in the spirit world, and you pulled that ticket and you're like, this is my ticket, number 528. Okay. I'm going to resolve this in my lifetime. And, people have a tendency to think we all, we're human. My problems are worse than anybody else's, and the Johnsons that live down the street, they have new cars and they look like such a perfect family. But guess what? Going through medical school, there is no such thing as a perfect family. And you can never tell on the surface, of that person and the facade that they put up, what lurks behind that facade. And to me, is like, everybody has trauma that they're working through. It just depends on that ticket, the ticket they got from the spirit world. They pulled that one ticket. This is what I'm going to resolve. And somebody else said, no, I'm taking on this ticket. It's got 14 things on it, and somebody else might have 3, but you know what I'm saying? They'll have other tickets to resolve too. So it's just we have to be compassionate towards each other and towards everybody, because there is no such thing as an easy life. Nobody
Right.
has an easy life. Everybody has problems and issues and trauma to deal with, and some people don't even know they have trauma because they haven't even gotten to the point where they're figuring out that they did have trauma. So just we have to be more compassionate and accepting towards all people in this world,
Yes.
regardless of faith, religion, race. It doesn't matter. It's just we have to be more compassionate.
Yes.
Mhm.
Amen. Again. Well,
Yeah.
and I've learned to laugh about it now, but I do jokingly say, I don't know what line I got into in heaven before I came down here, but I'm really irritated with myself because I'm an overachiever by nature. And I think I was like, oh yeah, I'll take that. Oh, I'll take that one too. Oh, and if you want to add that, that's okay. I mean,
Yeah. Just do all of those tickets. Sure, put them in my bucket. I'm ready.
I
Put on the
got it.
wings.
I got it.
Fly down. You got your little bucket, and then you get here and you don't remember any of those,
Right.
tickets that you pulled in the spirit world, and they just kind of come up as you go through life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I'm sitting here at 56 going, oh my gosh, I signed up for way too much. But the beauty, I mean, really the beautiful part of it is that because of all of that,
Mhm.
I've learned so many incredible lessons in forgiveness, in love, and just things that I really felt like I had to learn, and then help radiate that into the universe with conversations with you and so many
Mhm.
others.
Yeah, it's once we figure that out, it's all about, gratitude and acceptance and compassion, because the universe is literally built on love. And, we all carried that during my second N.D, when I stood in that light. That is just unconditional love and peace. And we come from that. We are that. We return to that. And, that is that spark that we all carry. But it's just a matter of working through our traumatic events and finding that peace in our heart. And like you said, each individual person has to go on that journey. And sometimes you can see that somebody is struggling with something, but they're not quite ready to go there and to heal it yet. And the person has to find that within themselves, like, I don't want to be this way anymore. I want to create healing for this, regardless of what the problem is. But it has to come from within that person's own essence, true soul, that
Yes.
they want that healing. It's like uh you can't force healing on somebody. It has to come from within that person.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, you made me think about, I haven't talked about this on the show in quite a while. I think I've only talked about it twice before in like 240 episodes, but I had done a meditation and it was a really, really powerful, it was the most powerful meditation I'd ever done. And I was really deep into it, but
Mhm.
like what I call angels with these like lights, and they led me, and it wasn't like down a tunnel or anything, but it was into this, like through this space, and there was this veil. It was all I can consider as a smoky veil. And I was given a glimpse behind the veil. And what I can tell you is that it lasted what was a millisecond, yet eternity.
Mhm.
And that's the only way I can describe it. And in that was what you just said,
Mhm.
this incredible love
Mhm.
and peace
Mhm.
that I knew that's where I had come from, and that's where I was being drawn to return to. And then when I came back out of that, I really was a changed person, because that usually I'll cry when I talk about it, but it was such an incredibly beautiful and real, the most real experience I'd ever had. But yes, it's love and peace.
Yeah, it's a spiritually transformative experience, an
Yes.
STE. Yeah. And they, they're so powerful because they change who you are. Yeah.
Yes. Amen. How are we doing on time? Oh my gosh, we could go on and on and on and on. So is there anything that you wanted to touch upon that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet?
Oh, there's so many things.
I know. Do we have another 3 hours?
Right. Let's see. I think we talked about the ancestral healing and the importance of creating healing for yourself. Sometimes we don't see that the things that we're struggling with are passed down through the generations, and it can be any kind of problem. It could even be anxiety, OCD, even physical events. So things that happen to us, I call it the ancestor clock. Things that happen to our parents, to our mother, and sometimes they repeat almost at the exact same age. When we go through, so I have so many allergies. So there we go. Everything is blooming here in Phoenix. So sometimes things just get passed down, and people get sick at the exact same age. Their mother got sick, or their father, depending on who they're kind of entangled with. They have the same experiences. They have the same emotional kind of stress and trauma. It might not be caused by the same event, but the experience is the same. And so that is really interesting to work with, because I see it so much. And many times when I work as a medical intuitive, and it really comes out that it's an ancestral entanglement, because we are, not only do we inherit trauma via DNA, which we now know, right? So it gets passed down on our genes. So if our grandfather served in World War II, and he was afraid every time he heard the sirens go off, he thought he was going to die. And now the granddaughter has anxiety attacks every time she hears the siren, but she didn't have any traumatic event in her own life. So where is it coming from? And those are things that can actually be passed down via the DNA. But not only are we entangled with the DNA, we're also entangled by our own experiences in childhood with these people, or what I call the invisible grid. Because sometimes you're entangled with your grandparents. The story about them maybe, but they passed away when you were 5. See what I'm saying? But the story, and this grandmother had this problem, and blah 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 blah. And when you look at it, the egg that you came from your mother, the ovarian egg, she made that egg when she was a 20-week-old fetus in her mom's womb, so your grandmother's womb. So what happened in your grandmother's life when your mom was a baby in her tummy, right? All those experiences, did that get transferred down? And so sometimes we go through life and we think we have this we think that it's just us, and we're in complete control of our life, because that's how we perceive life. But the truth is that we are quite entangled with our ancestors, and via DNA and the invisible grid, and from our own experiences in childhood. And we kind of merge with those types of behavior, because that's what we see, that's what we experience, and then we repeat it subconsciously. So it's absolutely fascinating.
Oh my gosh, I'm your new biggest fan. So I'm just like, I'm so enthralled by all of it. I mean, it's just amazing. And how crazy that about, I don't know, 3 months ago, I was like, I should go back to school and like be a naturopath. And I literally got online. So now I get all these like emails from, there's like a school in New Hampshire and a school in California. And so it was like, because I had reached out and started researching and thought, I need to help people heal because of what I had been through. And that is just amazing. So you're my hero. So
never too late.
I know. I'm like, I'm 56. I can go back and do it. Right.
Yeah. Right. It's never too late to follow that path. Because if you look at it, our life expectancy now, is so much greater than it was even 20 years ago, 40 years ago. When I was little, when my dad turned 50, it was a big celebration. And if people came with flowers, and,
Oh,
my dad didn't work that day, and food was served because he made it to 50, right? It was old age. Now we're like 50. It's like
that's like the
30,
middle,
right?
right? Right. I
Right.
had I had a psychic tell me once, 92 comes to mind, 92, 92, 92. And I was like, so now I just tell myself, well, that just means I'm going to die when I'm 92. So I always just say, I've got 36 more years left. I have a lot to do. So,
Exactly. You weren't even an adult until you were 21. So you've only
right.
lived half your life.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you're going to be healthy, there are people, I have patients in their 90s that are fully functioning and out in the world and doing all these great things. And I'm just looking at that thinking, wow, you know, maybe I'm going to be one of those people in my 90s and I'm still out there fully functioning. But when you
Right.
look at it that way and you're in your 50s, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've only lived half my life. I got
Yeah.
so much more time. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's such a great way to put it. When you really like life started at like 21, 22
Yeah.
years old, and that was only 30 years ago. So really, I'm at the halfway point.
Yes. You're only
Yeah.
halfway. Yeah.
Woo!
Plenty of time. And then when you look at
Exactly.
picking up a 2-year or 4-year degree, that seems like nothing now, in the
Right.
context of, wow, I got like 30, 40 years left. Then it
Yeah.
seems like nothing. And that you're changing your life and you're becoming this new person. And with that comes all the excitement too. I'm doing something new. I'm on a new path, and you meet new people, right? And so you grow and you change, and life becomes very exciting and fun, especially if you feel, somebody's listening, feeling stagnant, and, I need a change. Go
Yeah.
find that change. And it's those baby steps, that
Yeah.
leads you on that new path. I was running a business out of my house. I was teaching my kids. I was driving them to the city every day while I went and did all my prereqs. I woke up at 4 a.m. to finish my homework and leave for school at 7, be in school from 8 to 11, back home. And, everything, it's doable.
Yeah.
It's just because the excitement drives you too. It's like, wow, I'm going to do this. Right. And then
Well,
you,
and that's what I
you
say to the
find that
audience.
time.
Yeah, for anybody
Mhm.
listening, the same thing goes that I told my son. Only you can make it happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, and if you keep having that tap on your shoulder, that whisper in your ear,
Mhm.
nudging you in a direction, yes, that's your
Yes.
soul talking to you, and
Mhm.
do it.
Yeah. Go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, for sure. All right. How do people get in touch with you? How do they find
Oh,
you and your book?
yes. So the book is Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul. And it actually won an award about 6 months ago. It won the gold medal from Living Now Book Awards, in the category of spiritual leadership. And it's available on Amazon and all these other online book platforms, Barnes and Noble, and it's available in ebook, it's available in print, and it's available in audiobook.
Okay.
And my websites are Dr. Lotte, DRLOTTE.com. And that talks more about what I do, when I work as a physician, and these are the different conditions typically that I see. But then there is a button there that you can go to my other website, and it says, do you want to work with Dr. Lotte spiritually? Click here. And then that takes you to divinespiritualessence.com. So DIVINE, divinespiritualessence.com. And there you can see all the spiritual sessions. So medical intuitive, ancestral healing, wholehearted, which is psychic and mediumship. And I tell people it doesn't really matter so much. If you don't know if you need ancestral healing, just sign up for a medical intuitive, because it's going to come out. If that's where the session is going to go, that's where it's going to go. So we just kind of follow, what comes in spiritually and what the client tells me, and then we just put it all together, and we just try, we try to create healing, whatever that healing may look like for that person. It could be, sometimes people will sign up because I call it like a medical intuitive and wellness. And that's because sometimes people want to work with me, but they live in a different state, or, they want kind of like an educational session. Do you know of any other ways to treat this condition that I was diagnosed with? And then I can help them find the practitioners in their state. Sometimes, I think you need to be looking for somebody like this. because many times people aren't aware of different kinds of practitioners that are out there and what they do and how they can be helped by them.
Right.
Yeah. And so a medical intuitive can become ancestral healing, a wellness educational information, or a combination of all of the above, but there's always medical intuitive and connection with the spirit world at some point. Because when I work, I always work with my spirit guides. So they will tell me things and I will say, I'm hearing this. Is that what's going on? So that's how you can book a session. You can just go online and find that. And then my podcast is called Dr. Lotte Science with Soul. And that's on all the different platforms. And I interview different kinds of physicians, homeopaths, acupuncturists, functional neurologists, as well as mediums, shamans, to make that connection between science and soul, to try and help create healing for people physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bringing in different types of practitioners that many people haven't heard of, and different medical conditions that they see, so people will know where to turn to find help so that they can heal.
Wow, beautiful. And again, thank you so very much for all the work you do in the world. Wow. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock again. Just wanted to thank you for listening to the episode today and remind you to visit my website as well as the academy.teriwellbrock.com for the courses. But if you go to my website, teriwellbrock.com, you can sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, which is also jam-packed with information and strategies and blog pieces and guest blog pieces and links to shows, and just a great space for, again, healing and hope strategies. Thanks for, again, being here and being a part of this healing space. I very much appreciate you. All right.